A motorist wants more than £1,000 in compensation. This is after she drove into a 3-foot ancient glacial stone which sits in the middle of a road in the Buckinghamshire village of Soulbury. The legal threat raised question marks over the future of the stone, but residents have threatened to chain themselves to this great big boulder if the council considered moving it from the junction where it sat for 11,000 years. Well, we've been to Soulbury to hear whether locals want this rock removed.
Well, I love the stone. It's obviously been here for years. When I was a child, I went past my grandfather in a car and he told me it was a mounting stone, for getting on a horse. And soon after I came to live here, one morning came back from Leighton Buzzard and hit it head on, like a terrific bang, and it wrote it off. And that was that. It was a lovely citron. Quite a new one.
So do you want the stone removed?
No.
Yeah, it's big enough. If she'd been going a bit slower or paying a bit more attention, I don't think she would have gone into it. And to actually try and get rid of it for that reason, I think is ridiculous.
Well, it's not just residents who want this rock protected. Parish Council Chairman Victor Wright told my colleague Justin Dealey this morning, if people chain themselves to the rock, he'll do the same.
We'll find a method. I won't damage it, though. The one thing I won't do is damage it. It's a very hard stone and very unforgiving. So, yes, we will do our best. We will protest to the end.
Well, this morning the Conservative councillor Mark Shaw told Justin Dealey there's no need for anyone to chain themselves to this rock, because despite the rumours, there's no way they'll be moving this historic stone.
What we want to do, obviously, is clearly make the road as safe and secure for all drivers. But actually, it would be absolute lunacy to move that stone. It's been there 11,000 years, never been our intention. We're not going to do it.
Yes, Councillor Mark Shaw. Well, I want to know from you this morning, is it reasonable to leave a dirty great stone in the middle of a road? I'll level with you. I am not from Soulbury. I don't know Soulbury very well, so I had to Google this morning to see what we're actually talking about. Let me just describe. There is a junction of the road in this, what looks like a very pretty village, and in the middle of this junction is a great big rock. It's just sitting there in the middle of the road. I mean, if you know it's there, then the chances are, it'll all be fine. If you weren't familiar with this particular village, if you were driving there, particularly if you were driving there at night, there is every chance you may well scrape your car against it when going round the corner, going into that junction. I mean, it's quite remarkable. I totally get the fact that it's 11,000 years old, but does it really need to still sit in the middle of the road? Couldn't it be moved somewhere else in the village? Let's get some reaction from Alan Stevens, who's a parish councillor in Soulbury in Buckinghamshire. Good morning to you, Alan. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Jonathan.
You don't think this stone is a hazard at all?
Not at all. I mean, when you describe it as sitting in the middle of the road,
yes,
it's not in the middle of the main road.
No, it's in the middle of the road you'd turn into.
That's correct.
From the main road, yes.
If you approach it from the north, i.e. driving out of the village towards Leighton Buzzard, you can't even see it until you've just about passed it, because it's hidden by a great big house next to it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful house.
That's right. Yeah. And if you approach it from the Leighton Buzzard area, and you hit it, if you didn't hit that, you'd go straight into the house anyway, because it's not on the main drag of the main road. But
we heard earlier in that little recording we played where we went off to Soulbury to meet people, there was a woman on there who wrote her Citroen 2CV off.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, people have crashed into it.
People have hit it, yeah. I was talking to a resident yesterday.
Yes.
And said, how many times do you think it's been hit? And she said loads of times.
Right.
And she said we even had, on one occasion, Chapel Hill, where it sits, is a very steep and narrow hill. And we had one occasion, she said, where a lorry reversed up the hill so fast that he actually mounted the stone and abandoned himself on there because his back axle was then...
He was impaled on your rock.
He rode up.
But look, being realistic about it, I know there's always a temptation when something's been around for donkey's years, there's a temptation that we become a little blind to the logic of it. But surely you can recognise that this rock is not now, in 2016, in a very good place. And it doesn't mean that anyone's talking about chucking the rock away, but wouldn't it be a good idea just to kind of shift it somewhere a bit less in the middle of everywhere?
I think you'd have a hell of a job to shift it, because the story is there's 90% of it is still underground.
We'd have to cut it, wouldn't you? Cut the top
Well,
of it.
yeah, and that would defeat the whole object, really.
Oh,
because,
no, you'd still have the top bit, wouldn't you? The bit that you
you'd have
can
the
see.
top bit, but rumours have it.
I mean, haven't you got a museum? Or you could put it in the middle of the village pub or something like that. People could imagine the trade that would bring.
Indeed, yes, but the thing is, it was there before the houses were put there, obviously.
Oh, yes, but lots of things were there before
and
houses
we
were
have
there.
photographic evidence that it had a lamp post right next to it in years gone by.
Yeah.
Now, whoever removed the lamp post, which I suspect is Highways, if they reinstated the lamp post, problem solved. There was a lamp post right next to it, and we have a postcard photograph of that.
So you're suggesting if it was illuminated, that would make it safer?
Yeah, of course it would.
But it's not, I mean, with the greatest of respect, your village looks, I'm not familiar with Soulbury, so you'll have to forgive me, I'm a Hertfordshire lad myself, so...
Well, someone's got to live there.
Well, that's very true. But I mean, the pictures of Soulbury, it looks like a beautiful village.
It is.
But let me be blunt about it, there ain't much beautiful about that rock.
Well,
it's not pretty.
Some villagers think it is.
It's a great big boulder.
It's part of the village, and you destroy that, you'll destroy the heart of the village.
No, people say things like that. Destroy that rock, you'll destroy the heart of the village. Nothing will change about the village at all. You could put the rock somewhere else. The village would still have the same people, you'd still have the same beautiful houses, you'd still have the nice atmosphere, it's just the rock would be in a more sensible place. It's not going to destroy the heart of the village, is it, because you move a rock?
Well, there you go, that's how villagers feel about it.
Well, yeah, but that's irrational.
Well, no, I don't think they're being irrational at all.
Well, of course they're being irrational. If they're saying that it's better to leave a great big rock in the middle of the road where people can crash into it...
The road. I will not have it.
It is in the middle of the road. It may not be in the middle of the main road. It's in the middle of the blooming road. Come on.
You can drive round it in circles.
Yes, you can drive round it, but why should you have to? It's in the middle of the road. I mean, I could stand in the middle of the road. Oh dear. I could stand in the middle of the road and argue that people can drive round me, but it still doesn't mean it would be a sensible place for me just to stand.
If you took a tape measure up there, it's not in the middle of the road. I can measure the road from one side to the other, and you'll find it's biased to the left.
Come on, Alan. You've recognised. I've talked sense today. Don't laugh. I have. Come on, you've got to admit. I've made you see this differently. You've become fixated by history.
I've only lived here for 30 years. And so I'm only just a villager, really. So,
well, exactly. You know. It's time to shift the rock. I think we should have a campaign. Come on now, Alan.
Well, I'm pleased to hear on your show just now, whilst I was waiting to talk to you,
yes,
that the Bucks County Council are not going to move it. So,
well, they say that, but maybe we should put pressure on them to do so.
No, absolutely not.
Hashtag shift that rock. Alan, thank you very much indeed. I mean, I'm genuinely, I'm quite tickled by this story because it is, for those of us that weren't born and bred in Soulbury, it is absolutely bonkers. There's a dirty great boulder in the middle of a road and people are saying, well, it would destroy the heart of the village, wouldn't it? You know, take that rock out in the middle of the road, you know, the whole village would just fall apart. No, it wouldn't. Just lift it up, put it somewhere nice. You know, is there a village green or somewhere like that it could go in the middle of? Or, you know, maybe even on the pavement, that would be better, wouldn't it? And then you could, well, it would just be more sensible. You still have your rock, if the rock's important to the village, but you don't have it in such a silly place. I mean, in the middle of the road. Sheila in Leighton Buzzard. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning, Sheila. It's time to hashtag shift that rock.
No, it's hashtag everything can't revolve around cars.
Why do you want it to stay?
Well, I presume the Druids put it up like Stonehenge or all the standing stones that
Well,
are
it's a
in
very
fields.
silly place for them to leave it.
Well, listen, it was probably in a field before they built the road, so they should have built the road so they went well round the rock. That's what I would think. I mean, yeah, where that bloke said about the lamppost, now why don't they put a beacon on it or something? Yeah,
Beacon?
foggy weather.
I'm
Put a beacon on it.
I'm
and-
sorry. I'm going to say how I feel about this because there's no point. It's an ugly rock. There's nothing nice about it. It's not some beautiful sculpture in the middle. It's a dirty great boulder. And it's sitting in the middle of the road. The last thing you want to do is make it even more obvious, illuminate it.
Well, some people might think it's beautiful.
No,
I've
it's-
never been to the Orkneys where there's loads of those.
No, come off it. It's like people who stick flags in dog poo. You don't want it. You don't want it.
Well, that I agree. You don't want that, no.
But you don't. Why do you want to highlight this great big rock? Just shift it somewhere else.
Millions of years, Jonathan.
No, it's been there 11,000 years.
Well, 11,000 years. That's longer than you and I have been down on the earth.
That doesn't matter. Just because you look in history, there are all kinds of things that they dig up and find.
Yeah.
What do we do when we dig up and find historic things? We remove them from where they've been dug up and we put them somewhere more appropriate, normally in a museum or somewhere like that. All
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we, chuck this rock off into the middle of the ocean. I'm saying all we do is we move it somewhere more sensible, rather than leaving it in the middle of the road.
Now, listen, Jonathan, you get things in museums, smaller things. Yeah, you get these prehistoric animals or the bones of them and that. But to try and dig up, and as the bloke said, if it's 90% under the ground...
Cut it!
Pardon?
Cut it!
Oh, you might get all sorts of spirits down on you if you cut
There
it.
must be some kind of cutting machine they can just lop the top of it off with.
Cutting machines for stones, after all.
So cut
No.
it, re-tarmac over the top of it, lovely jubbly, job done, no one gets their car hurt.
It's up to drivers to be more careful. There's too
But
many
there's
cars.
only
Look,
so
you
much-
couldn't-
look.
Listen, Jonathan, you couldn't get through Leighton Buzzard, could you, last Saturday when he was doing the
There's only
because of all the traffic?
there's only so much you can do as a motorist, and there's only so much you expect. You don't expect to see a boulder left in the middle of a road at a junction.
Now, you expect to look where you're going when you're backing up, especially if it's a sunny morning.
Sheila, no,
Yes.
you deep down, I'm talking sense. You're just being silly.
No, I'm not.
You are. You're being.
No, I'm not being no more silly.
You're being like one of these village people in Soulbury saying.
I can see the other people's point of view. I do understand about drivers,
Yeah.
but I mean, you just got to be more careful, you drivers.
Sheila, thank you very much. Is it reasonable to leave a dirty great stone in the middle of a road? I mean, it's not, is it? What a stupid thing to do. What a silly place to have left that rock all these years. Mark Shyman is from the Green Party in Luton and Bedfordshire. Oh. He wants the stone removed, it says on my screen. I don't believe that for a minute.
It doesn't say that. You are so speaking as a car driver, probably of a 4x4 or some dirty great big vehicle. Now, if I'd come along on my electric tricycle, do you think I'd have hit it for a second? Do you think going at the careful speed of 18 miles an hour, I would have had any problems with it? And quite plainly, there should be caution warnings up for this thing. That thing sticking out of the ground is no higher than a child that could have been crossing the road. That is the issue. You've got
But a child wouldn't
the
be
unexpected.
a child wouldn't be grey, the same colour as the road. I mean, that's the issue. If you're not expecting it, the last thing you would ever imagine.
They need to give some advance notice of obstructions in the road.
But why not just move it?
difficult,
Mark, I don't
and
understand.
wouldn't
Move
interfere.
it. Move it somewhere more practical.
But I respect the wishes of the local people in this village.
I
We
bet.
live
No.
in this
I'll tell you.
world where everything is
No.
so sameish.
No,
where the thought police tell us we can or we can't do that.
No, I'll tell you what will have happened.
People who live in the area.
No, I'll tell you what will have happened. It will be a handful of people who've lived in that village for 100 years. My father was born in this village. I'm born and bred in this village. It'll be a handful of people like that who say, if you take that stone away, you'll destroy this village. I bet the vast majority of people, it's just they dare not speak up. The vast majority of people in Soulbury are probably thinking, what a silly place for that rock to remain.
It also has a history of meant to be the devil's toe when it landed in the ground, and that is probably something generations of parents have told their children, watch out or the devil's stone will come and get
So
you.
move his toe.
Beauty. It's part of the madness.
It's not beautiful.
England.
No, it's not beautiful. It's a rock. It's a rock.
It's a rock that has been there for 11,000 years, and quite plainly you can't just cut off the top of it because that wouldn't be preserving what it actually is.
Why not? If you can't even see the rest of it, you could have a plaque up at the side of the road saying, under this road lies the rest of the devil, and his toe is in the pub. You could do something like that, and then direct tourists.
Have a celebration of English madness. Let yourself
That's
go.
what this is.
Don't
This
just
is
think
it.
of the, I'm locking myself in my car. I could be in danger here. Think of this is part of the things. One of the massive things that makes Britain a beautiful place.
You've lost it. You've lost it this time.
Yeah.
You've lost it. That time I spoke to you and you changed yourself to that tree, I thought that was the strangest. Now you're defending a rock left in the middle of the road.
Yes. I defend anything that makes Britain beautiful and different,
Thank you very much, Mark Shyman from the Green Party in Luton and Bedfordshire. Phil in Hertfordshire says, JVS, please shut up and leave it alone. People like you are responsible for destroying most of this country's heritage, so just keep your nose out. Says Phil. H text to say, JVS, you are doing my dad's head in. Here we go. He was born and still lives in Soulbury. The stone is part of our history. People who live in villages say things like that. You'll destroy the heart of this village, you remove that stone. It's in the middle of the road. Philip in Flitwick says, Jonathan, if the stupid bint can't see a huge stone, she needs her eyes tested. This is referring to the woman who's crashed her car into it. Patricia in Hitchin says, JVS, I've heard it all now. How on earth can this woman be claiming compensation when she backed into the stone herself? It's ridiculous. I can't understand this. Why is everyone defending this? It's a rock in the middle of the road. Joan in St Albans. Hello, Joan.
Hello.
Hello, Joan. What would you like to say?
Well, I can see the problem here. It's been there for 11,000 years, long before they built the estate.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind in the parish council and the county council allowed the rock to go in the middle of the road? They could have built the houses round it. They could have built a roundabout round it. So the blame really lies with the idiots who actually passed the plans for that.
But the chances are, looking at some of the architecture of this village, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Yes.
That this village would have been formed. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago. If there was such a thing as a parish council at the time, I mean, they're all dead.
Yeah, but so you're saying the stone was in the middle of the road hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Well,
I don't believe that.
Well,
houses don't stand for 11,000 years. So when those houses were originally built,
yes,
it was idiotic to leave it in the road and not move the houses somewhere else.
So do you think we should knock the houses down?
Well, no, you don't want to knock them down.
Exactly, because people live in them. So if you're not going to knock the houses down, if you're not going to destroy the village of Soulbury, then wouldn't it make more sense just to move the rock?
No, I can understand it, especially if somebody said it goes down some way.
Just cut the top off.
Can they not sort of build a roundabout or something round it? Is it on a crossroads?
It's right at the end of a junction, Joan.
Right. Well, I still think it is down to planners who allowed it to sit.
Yes.
There probably wasn't a proper road.
They made their mistakes. They were foolish, but they're dead.
Yes, I know they are, but I'm saying all this going on about why is it in the middle of the road, that's where the blame lies.
True.
I just think,
But we are where we are.
Yes.
Those people that made the mistakes.
I also agree. If it's been there that long and somebody backs into it, if I had backed into it, I'd have thought, you stupid woman. I would never have dreamed of causing all this fuss about it, because you must know it's there.
Okay, thank you, Joan. Is it reasonable? Look, let's have a sensible discussion. Is it reasonable to leave a dirty great stone in the middle of a road? Is it reasonable? Am I the only person that feels this is a case of hashtag scrap the rock or move the rock? Am I the only person that feels that that's what we should push the council to do? A motorist wants more than £1,000 in compensation after driving into a 3-foot ancient glacial stone which sits in the middle of a road in the Buckinghamshire village of Soulbury. The legal threat raised question marks over the future of the stone, but residents have threatened to chain themselves to this great big boulder if the council even considered for 1 minute moving it from the junction where it has sat for 11,000 years. Well, look, I'm all one for all this history business. However, surely the rock could stay in the village, but not necessarily in the middle of the road. Why can't they just shift it? I don't quite see why there is this possessiveness over what ultimately is a rock in the middle of the road. Same colour as the road. This texter says, wouldn't this be a boring world if we listened to you, JVS? One motorist backs into an ancient monument, move the woman or the road, not the rock, for goodness sake. Well, it's not just one person. Apparently lots of people over the years have crashed into this boulder. So, this is not just one case. Kaz in Luton says, this is the first time I have ever agreed with the Green Party man. Keep the rock. Keep the rock. Tom in Milton Keynes says, JVS, I've been driving through Soulbury since the 1960s and I haven't hit it yet. This person doesn't leave their name. It's not in the middle of the road. It is just a splitter island at a junction. If you can't see it, you need glasses and you need to give up driving. JVS, you are being a numpty. You've not even been there, so you cannot make a constructive comment. I went this morning to see it, says this bird. People are going to view the rock now in Soulbury. Brian says, this reminds me of the people who move into a village and then immediately start complaining about the church bells ringing. If you can't see it properly, stay away. Dave says, are they dinosaurs in this village? Bomb it. Well, I'm not sure anyone would advocate bombing the rock or destroying it. I mean, I don't think we want that. But couldn't they just, shift it a bit? Eric in St Albans. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Jonathan.
Good morning.
The rock should stay where it is. If this person can't see a rock in the middle of the road, then, as the other people were saying, they want their glasses testing. Other eyes testing.
Well, no, you see, I can't agree with you because it's not that high.
Well, if it's 3 foot, I mean, it's fairly high.
It's 3 foot, but
it's bigger than some of these roundabouts that the council's put down.
Yes, but the difference is, but the roundabouts would be brightly coloured. They'd have lighting. This is exactly the same colour as the road. This rock.
Yeah, well, it stands up. If it stands up 3 foot out of the road, that's the height of a child at least.
Yes, but a child would be wearing, brightly coloured clothes. Probably they're not going to be. A child's not going to be camouflaged as a rock.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I mean, one is now going to be Salisbury is going to be a tourist attraction to the 3 counties.
How about spraying it?
A bit of the high-vis jacket sticking on it.
Well, at the moment, I think it's got cones all round it, which looks awful. How about spraying it at least with something fluorescent?
People still wouldn't look at it, see it? I mean, if this person in actual fact backed into it, he or she, whoever it was not looking at what they were doing.
Okay, let's play a game. I'm fascinated by people's logic over this. I really am, because I think people have become blind to logic. Let me give you a scenario, Eric. You go out into your lovely garden in St Albans and you're digging up in the garden, doing a bit of digging, and all of a sudden you find an ancient fossil in your flower bed. What would you do?
If it's an ancient fossil, it's usually small. Now we've had what is called a pumice stone at our house, which was not large, but that went to the local museum.
Well, how dare you? How dare you transport it from where it has sat for all those years? You should have left it back. You should have patted the mud back on top of it and left it there.
No. My grandson will have dug it up.
Exactly, but this is the thing. We don't just leave... Just because you find something old doesn't mean you have to leave it where it sat if it's an impractical place.
I mean, let's take another scenario. Are they going to start moving Stonehenge?
Well, Stonehenge doesn't interfere with anyone, does it? It's not in the middle of a housing development or anything like that. I mean...
Stonehenge used to be a right bottleneck there, I'll tell you, for that. But this one, no. It should stay where it is. It's going to be a tourist attraction, so people are going to see it and people are going to miss it. So leave it where it is.
Eric, thank you very much. Ian in Aylesbury. Good morning to you, Ian.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Hello, Ian. What would you like to say?
I agree with you entirely. I think we should move that rock, and there's lots of other rocks we need to move as well. There's a load of rocks in Aylesbury that could be doing with moving as well.
Why? Where are they? Where are they?
Aylesbury, they take up all around the village. They're everywhere. And Stonehenge as well. Move all the rocks.
Well, I'm not sure I don't see what the point is of going to all that effort if it's not in the middle of a road. But if it's in the middle of a road, then...
Which the one in Soulbury is not in the middle of a road.
Well, it is. It's in the middle of a road, albeit it is in the middle of a road.
It forms more like the other chap said, more like a traffic island.
I sense that you're being ironic when you say all of this.
No, move them all. Remove everything that's got any culture or history about it.
I knew it. I knew you weren't. I knew you weren't really on my team, Ian. I could tell. But look, realistically, you know I'm talking sense, because in this day and age, in 2016, when you've got more and more traffic on the roads, you can't have a rock sitting in the middle of a road. So chop the top of it off, move it. I say put it in the middle of the pub.
No, I've never managed to hit it when I've driven through Soulbury.
Well, maybe you've been lucky.
No, you'd have to be a complete imbecile to hit it.
Thank you very much. John in Datchworth. Hello, John.
Good morning, young man.
Hello, John.
Yeah, your stone.
Well, it's not my stone. If it was my stone, I'd move it.
Apparently about 85% of it's underground, isn't it?
Yeah. Apparently so. Apparently it's the rest of the devil or something.
You're going to destroy the best part of that road, trying to dig it out. Then who's going to pay for all of that?
We don't dig it up, do you?
Well, you can't do anything else with it. It's got to stay there.
No, it hasn't got to stay there. You just get, I don't know what you call it, angle grinder? Some kind of metal...
Get stone cut to get through that.
Look, you can cut stone. So you get some kind of cutting machine to cut the top of it so it's nice and flush with the road, tarmac over the top of that and move the stone somewhere, and then you could make almost like a shrine to it somewhere else in the village. You could have signs made up.
You want to move a landmark, okay?
Yeah.
Now, other people have also said this, right? It could have been a pedestrian that person's reversed into.
But the pedestrian would not look like a rock.
I beg to differ. When I walk my dog and everything, you'd be surprised how many people in the wee hours of the morning or in dusk walk without bright clothing on. Again, if it was a keep left bollard that she backed into, would she be claiming off the council for that?
The bollard would be...
They put traffic calming measures in, where they actually put stupid things in the road to calm the traffic down. Is she going to hit one of those and then claim off the council?
So you don't have any sympathy for the woman whatsoever?
I think she's a complete wally.
Okay. John, thanks very much for your call. Brian in High Wycombe. Hello, Brian.
Yeah, I won't say she's a wally, but I just never heard you being so biased. You're usually weighing up both sides, and I think this is the way the world is going. And if it was a pothole... Yeah,
you're right. I have nailed my colours a bit to the mast today, haven't I?
Well, I'll nail my colours to the other wall then, because if it was a pothole, yeah, that needs to be dealt with immediately. and hopefully it would be.
But
Because
Brian,
lots of people would be complaining.
Brian,
And,
this is a rock in the middle of the road.
But if you look back 11,000 years, how many people have complained about it, about hitting it?
Well, we don't know. Because this is the first time I even knew about this rock.
Back that far, but I don't think one should. This is just, I must get money back for what was obviously. Nowadays, I have to be so careful because I haven't got, like my daughter's new car's even got a camera behind her to see what she's backing into. This is 3 foot high, and I would always know of anything before I even start backing, and then it.
Brian, if push came to shove, would you chain yourself to that rock?
Well, no.
Oh, you don't care that much?
No, it sounds a bit uncomfortable, but I like the comfort. But
would you sit on top of it as a protest?
Pardon?
Would you sit on top of it as a protest?
I'm at 82 years old. I haven't started doing that sort of thing, and I don't think I'm going to start now.
Brian, you call yourself a protester? Thank you for your call. Phil texts to say your phone-in should be, what has the fact that there's a stone in the road in Soulbury got anything to do with anyone other than the residents of Soulbury? What has it got to do with anyone else? Stop trying to impose your thoughts on other people. It's middle-class neo-fascism.